Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with the Pokeball, and it's time we jump into some details. Now, when I talk about details, what I mean is we're going to damage this Pokeball a little bit. So we already have the clean Pokeball saved out. Remember, we went here over here, save as Pokeball, and that's our Pokeball. And now I'm going to save as again, and I'm going to call this Pokeball damaged. And I always think it's really cool when we can have like multiple versions of an object, because it really shows that you understand that things can go through several like iterations, right? So I'm gonna go here. I don't think we have the toy plastic, so I'm gonna go into toy plastic again. Where is it? Where are you, toy plastic? There you go. And I'm just gonna say color and the fill object. There we go. And now I'm gonna use my trim dynamic to bevel out a couple of the edges here and there. So those little like damages, those little like nooks and crannies that we create, I think that those always help give this sort of like feel that this thing has seen some battle, right? So I'm gonna do something like that. Now, something that you definitely want to keep consistent is whenever you're doing this sort of thing, like you don't want to overdo it, right? Like you want to keep it simple, you want to keep it plausible. So I'm using my clay buildup right here to again damage a little bit of the structure for our element, and as you can see, we get this very nice effect. Plastic tends to chip away, so more often than not, you're gonna see like some scratches and some like bevels in certain areas, and that's mostly what you get to see on an object. Now you can see it was looking a little bit too symmetrical in that specific area, so I just decided not to go there. I'm gonna go with the Damien standard. I'm gonna change this alpha to a very sharp alpha, like alpha 46, and this will allow me to, as you can see, add a couple of scratches here and there, and that's also gonna give me a nice resolution. Now you can see that we're fighting a little bit against the resolution here, and that's because the topology of our object was not really good to begin with. Now here, there's a couple of things we can do. We can jump into what's the word, into Dynamesh, or we can just like try and go around those like problematic areas. So let's go back to actual. There we go. So I think something like that it should be more than enough. Now you definitely want to add the scratches in areas that make sense that you would have the scratches, like the button, since it's going to be facing forward most of the time, probably will have a little bit more damage than the rest of the elements. So I'm actually going to add like a big bump over here, kind of like a cut. There we go. And see, now when we see it from afar, you're gonna see that we get a very nice result. I'm gonna jump now onto the holes here, and I wouldn't expect there to be as much damage on this area, although I do want to add a little bit of bevel here and there. I'm definitely gonna add a couple of subdivision levels. We're at 2 million. Remember, for hard surfacey things, you definitely want to have like good enough resolution, otherwise things are not gonna look as nice. There we go. So just a couple of like effects are like maybe this corner right here has been damaged a little bit, something like that looks nice. Maybe the opposite corner, like this one right here. There we go. Now for the main areas, like we can of course go with like the trim dynamic here and add, let me turn off the paint so that you can see. So we can add those sort of like bumps. I think those are gonna look really, really nice. So you know, when you bounce something against a like a hard surface, you're gonna get like some very, very bad damages right here and there. So those small bumps there are gonna definitely change the way, as you can see, it's gonna change the way light reflects in the surface of the object, and that's definitely gonna help give me a more realistic look. The ideal thing, and we're gonna do this later, but the ideal thing is to actually take this into something like a substance painter and actually like go and give the damage over there with like proper texture. But here, this is something that we can definitely do and keep it simple. Now you can of course smooth some of them out. Let's go down a subdivision level so that it's not as bad. And now I'm gonna show you a very nice trick. I like to call this the Super Destroyer effect. So we're gonna go into Morph Target right here, and we're gonna store a Morph Target. What it basically does, it stores a version of the Pokeball as you have it right here. Now with my my Damien Standard brush, I'm gonna start adding just like scratches and lines pretty much everywhere. Like I'm not even gonna care that we need to keep this clean. It's just gonna go like crazy. Wherever I feel like we want a line, I'm just gonna add a line. There we go. And I'm gonna be, as you can see, super aggressive. And the reason why we're doing this is because we have stored a previous version of the Pokeball that doesn't have any of this details. So now, if I were to say switch, we're gonna switch back to that element, and there's a very nice brush called the Morph brush. It's BMO. Not sorry, it's M and then G, PMG. And what we do is when we paint with the morph brush, we're gonna be bringing back the detail from that other layer, from that other like stored target that we have over here. So it's kind of like blending between them. Now we can also go to the to this area right here, hit switch, and we can erase, use this as a sort of an eraser to get rid and soften up all of the scratches right here. So the reason I really like this technique is because you can really go crazy with the detail, and then in this sort of like happy little accident way, you can just like clean up some of the surfaces so that we get something a little bit more interesting. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So very easy way to do like this sort of like damage to the Pokeball in this case. And as you can see, this looks way more interesting than just like a traditional simple Pokeball, right? Now, you can also use alphas. Now, I can't share the alphas that I'm about to use because I got this alphas, I bought this alphas several years ago. But there's this brush, it's called Marble Damage. I think you can look them up online and you can find them, and they're like this very big cracks that we can use, and I'm gonna use some of them. So for instance, I really like this one right here, and we can just like add a little bit of a crack there. I'm definitely gonna bring the intensity quite down because I want like a big crack. So something like this. See how it kind of like fragments the surface a little bit. It's gonna make it look a little bit more stony, but remember, plastic tends to chip in this way, so you're gonna see like flakes of plastic just like flying around, and we're gonna get this sort of effect. You can also use like traditional brushes, like let's say, for instance, well, I have another one here that I really like, which is this sort of like spots, which are just like small little, I don't know, points. And actually, you know what? I'll show you guys how to do this, because I think it's super important that you guys know. And it wasn't planned, I swear. So I'm just gonna go here and let me show you. I'm just gonna create a 2048 by 2048 texture inside of Photoshop, and this one I will be able to share. And I'm gonna look for concrete damage. And if we find like this sort of thing, I'm just gonna copy this image. You're not seeing it right now, but this is it. So we can get this thing right here, and let's say we want like that specific like flakiness to it. I'm gonna press Control Shift U to desaturate, and then Control L to really crank this up. Like I want to extract the cracks of the elements. So I'm really gonna crank the levels until we get something like really close to what we're looking for. So something like this. There we go. And then with a brush, a black brush, and a black soft brush, I am gonna create like an alpha here. So I'm gonna fade the outside parts of the element so that we only get this thing. And as you can see, it's really pixelated, so I'm definitely gonna go filter, blur, and I'm gonna do a Gaussian blur so that we get like this sort of soft cuts right there. And this one I'm gonna save for you guys in case you want to use it. So let's go to our project. You can save this as a PSD or JPEG. Any one of those works. As we go, I'm gonna save it here in the tool section. Let's save it as a JPEG. I know JPEG's not the best, but let's call this concrete. Okay, and now if we go into our Pokeball here, we should be able to go into our standard brush, grab a drag rect, and select the alpha, and we're gonna import the alpha. That one right there. And now, as you can see, we get that sort of effect. Now, of course, we're gonna definitely make this smaller, and you can see how we can add a little bit of extra texture there. So you can do this with as many images as you want, and as you can see, we're gonna add this sort of like a roughness to the Pokeball, and that's gonna make him look really nice. Now, that's not the end of it. When I was planning this whole course, I wanted to make sure that you guys got a lot of cool information out of this, so that you could present these things in a very nice way. So we're actually gonna be taking this Pokeball into Marmoset. Hopefully you guys have Marmoset, or if not, you can get a free trial. I believe it's 30 days to try out the render properties of Marmoset, and hopefully get like a very nice render out of this. So I'm gonna stop the video right here, guys, and in the next one we're gonna take this very nice Pokeball into Marmoset to get a more realistic render. So hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next one.